The morning was already chaos. Phones rang. Keyboards clicked. People rushed through the glass halls of Carter Innovations, trying to look busy whenever the boss walked by. And the boss, William Carter, was in one of his moods. "Where's the report from finance?" he snapped as he crossed the floor. "And why are these presentation slides still not updated?" His assistant ran after him, almost tripping. "Mr. Carter, the meeting with the investors." "I know," he cut her off. "Tell them we'll start in 10. Everyone moved out of his way. Everyone except one. A girl stood right in front of the elevator, holding a tray with coffee cups that were shaking in her hands. Amelia Green, the new assistant. 2 weeks in the company and already famous for being clumsy. William stopped. His eyes narrowed. "You again," he said coldly. She froze. Mr. Carter, good morning. I was just bringing." One of the coffee cups tilted. A few drops hit the floor. He sighed. "Miss Green, do you realize how expensive that carpet is?" Her face turned red. "I'm so sorry, sir. He raised a hand. "Don't. Just don't." He walked past her, stepping around the small coffee stain. The elevator doors closed behind him. Inside, William leaned on his cane. "No, not yet, that comes later." He leaned on his briefcase, closing his eyes for a second. Why did HR keep hiring people who couldn't even carry coffee? He told himself he'd let her go by the end of the day. No point keeping someone who slowed everyone else down. The meeting went badly. Investors wanted faster progress. New deadlines. More results. William listened, calm on the outside, furious inside. When it was finally over, he walked out, voice low and sharp as he gave instructions to his team. Then he saw Amelia again, at the reception, nervously sorting mail. Of course. Still there. He walked toward her. "Miss Green in my office. Now." Her hands froze midair. "Why, yes, sir." She followed him up the stairs. He didn't wait for the elevator this time. He hated waiting. The stairs were faster. Or so he thought. Halfway up, he turned his head to say something over his shoulder. "I need those documents from." His foot slipped. A flash of pain. Crack. Then the world spun. He fell down 3 steps, hit the edge and landed hard on the floor. "Mr. Carter!" Amelia screamed. The noise echoed through the stairwell. For a moment everything stopped, even the air. He tried to move his leg. A sharp, burning pain shot up from his ankle. "Don't touch me," he hissed, teeth clenched. But she was already there, kneeling beside him. Her hands trembled, but her eyes, those green eyes, were steady. "It's your leg," she said softly. "You can't walk on it." He gritted his teeth. "I'll be fine. Just help me up." She tried to lift him, but he was heavier than he looked. "You're not fine," she said, breathless. "You need a hospital." He frowned. "I said I'm." Then another wave of pain hit, sharper this time. His voice broke. "Damn it." Without thinking, Amelia slid his arm over her shoulders. "Come on. We're getting you out." "You can't." "I can." She was small but stronger than she looked. Step by step she helped him up. The world seemed to tilt around them, his pride, his pain, her fear. Everything mixed into one dizzy blur. People were gathering now, whispering, watching. No one dared move closer. Except her. "Keep your weight on me," she said. He tried not to, but he had no choice. Every step sent fire through his leg. By the time they reached the lobby, sweat ran down his face. She was shaking, her hair falling into her eyes, but she didn't stop. The driver ran in. "Sir, what happened?" William opened his mouth to answer, but Amelia spoke first. "He fell. It might be broken. Get the car." The driver hurried away. For a second, silence filled the space between them. She looked up at him, breathless, scared but determined. And he looked down at her, realizing she was the only one who hadn't frozen. No assistant. No manager. No one else had moved. Just her. In the car he sat stiffly, leg throbbing, anger mixing with something else he couldn't name. She sat beside him, hands on her knees, trying not to look at him. Finally he said, "You didn't have to do that." She turned her head. "Someone had to." He frowned. "You could have called security." She shrugged. "They were standing there. You needed help." He studied her face. No fear now, just quiet strength. It was unsettling. At the hospital, doctors confirmed it. A clean break. He'd need crutches for several weeks, maybe longer. He hated the idea already. When he came out of the examination room, Amelia was still there, waiting with his coat folded neatly over her arms. "You can go home," he said. "I'll have the driver take me." She hesitated. "Are you sure?" "I don't need." Then unexpectedly he stopped. Looked at her. For some reason he couldn't finish the sentence. He sighed. "Never mind. Thank you, Miss Green." She smiled, small but real. "You're welcome, Mr. Carter." He watched her walk away down the white corridor. For the first time in a long time he felt something other than control. Something like confusion. The next morning his apartment felt too quiet. He hated sitting still. Hated depending on anyone. But when he tried to balance on the crutches, he almost fell again. He groaned. Perfect. The doorbell rang. His driver's voice came through the intercom. "Sir, Miss Green is here." He frowned. "What? Why?" She said HR sent her to help you with paperwork while you recover. William stared at the intercom. Of all people, her? He sighed, rubbing his forehead. "Send her up." Moments later, Amelia stepped into his penthouse, eyes wide at the view. Floor-to-ceiling windows, the London skyline glowing in the morning light. He crossed his arms. "I hope you can manage not to spill coffee on the carpet this time." She smiled nervously. "I'll try my best." He studied her for a moment, the awkward way she held her notepad, the little curl of hair she kept tucking behind her ear. There was something different about her now. Maybe it had always been there and he just hadn't noticed. As she started organizing his desk, he leaned back in his chair, watching her quietly. He didn't know yet why he'd agreed to let her stay. Maybe because she was the only one who'd been there when he fell. Or maybe because he wasn't ready to let her go. William Carter hated being helpless. He wasn't used to waiting for help. He was the one people waited for. But now, sitting on his couch with his leg wrapped and resting on a pillow, he had to admit one thing. This was humiliating. When the doorbell rang again, he groaned. Could only mean one thing. "Amelia. Come in," he said, voice flat. She stepped in with a smile, holding a bag of groceries and a thermos. "Morning, Mr. Carter. I brought some breakfast. I thought you might not have time to cook." He raised an eyebrow. "Do I look like a man who cooks?" She blinked. "So that's a no?" He sighed. "That's a no." She set the groceries on the counter, humming softly. The sound filled the big apartment, bright, warm, and terribly out of place in his polished gray world. For the next hour she moved around the kitchen, trying not to make noise but somehow making plenty. A spoon fell. A cabinet door slammed. Something sizzled too loudly. He winced. "Are you sure you know what you're doing?" "Of course," she said. "Well, mostly." A few minutes later she brought him a plate. It was scrambled eggs, slightly overcooked, and toast that was more brown than golden. He looked at it, then at her. "You're trying to poison me." She laughed, the sound light and unguarded. "It's edible, I promise." He took a bite. It wasn't great, but it wasn't bad either. He didn't tell her that, though. When she started cleaning the desk, he frowned. "Leave that. I'll do it later." "You said you can't move around much," she reminded him. "I didn't say I was useless." She smiled. "You don't have to. I can tell." That made him pause. He wanted to be annoyed, but instead he found himself fighting a smile. "Bold words for someone I almost fired," he said quietly. She froze for a moment, then looked down. "Yeah, I know." Something in her tone made him look up. It wasn't fear. It was honesty. "I really tried, you know," she added. "I just mess things up sometimes." He studied her face. "Then why not quit?" She shrugged. "Because I need to learn." And because she hesitated. "I actually like working there." "You like working for me?" he asked, half disbelieving. She smiled. "I didn't say that. I said I like the company." He chuckled. It was short but real. The first time he'd laughed in days. Hours passed faster than he expected. They worked on some emails together. Amelia read things out loud while William dictated. Her voice was soft but confident. Sometimes she mispronounced words, and he'd correct her with a smirk. She'd roll her eyes but smile. Do you always talk like you're giving orders? She teased. Do you always talk like you're not listening to them? He replied. Touché. Around noon she brought coffee. Carefully this time. He accepted the cup with mock suspicion. You sure it's safe? Completely, she said proudly. Not a single drop spilled. Progress, he murmured, hiding a smile behind the rim of the cup. She sat across from him, flipping through some papers. The light from the window caught her hair. It shimmered soft and golden. He noticed it before he meant to. For a moment, the silence between them wasn't awkward. It was peaceful. Then her phone buzzed. She jumped a little, quickly flipping it over. William caught the name that flashed on the screen. Evan prototype meeting 2 p.m. Prototype? Meeting? He raised an eyebrow. Busy schedule, Miss Green? Oh, that. She hesitated. Just something I'm working on. A side thing. He nodded slowly. A side thing? Yes. A small project. Nothing important. He didn't push. But something about the way she said it lingered in his mind. Later that afternoon, she helped him to the balcony for some fresh air. The London skyline stretched before them, silver and blue. You live here alone? She asked softly. Yes. Must be quiet. It's peaceful, he corrected. But lonely, she said without thinking. He turned his head. You assume too much. Maybe, she said, smiling faintly. But sometimes silence isn't peace. It's just empty space. He didn't reply. For the first time, her words hit a part of him he didn't want to touch. As the sun began to set, Amelia packed her things. I'll come by tomorrow morning, she said. You still have all those contracts to sign. He nodded. You don't have to. I know, she said. But you need help. Maybe I do, he admitted quietly. She smiled, surprised by his honesty. At the door she hesitated. Mr. Carter? Yes. About the stairs. I'm sorry you got hurt. He looked at her for a long second. It wasn't your fault. She shook her head. I know. But I still feel bad. Then consider it forgiven, he said. And for the first time he meant it. When the door closed behind her, William leaned back on the couch. He tried to focus on the laptop in front of him, but his mind drifted, to her voice, her laugh, the way she looked when she said empty space. He told himself it was just gratitude. She'd helped him when no one else had. That was all. But deep down he knew it wasn't that simple. Something was changing. Slowly. Quietly. And he wasn't sure he wanted it to stop. The next few days passed in an odd rhythm. William woke up early. Amelia arrived not long after, always with the same cheerful knock on the door. Morning, Mr. Carter. Morning, Miss Green. At first, their mornings were full of work. Emails, reports, endless calls. But gradually, the space between tasks began to fill with conversation. Not office talk. Real talk. One morning, as she typed a letter for him, she asked, Why did you start your company? He looked up from his phone. Excuse me. I mean, you could have worked anywhere. Why build your own? He hesitated. He hadn't been asked that in years. I wanted control, he said finally. Over what I build. Over who I am. She smiled faintly. Sounds lonely. He smirked. You keep calling me lonely. You make it sound like a disease. Maybe it is, she said. The kind that hides behind expensive suits. He stared at her, surprised, maybe even impressed. You're brave for someone on probation, he said dryly. She laughed. Maybe I'm just honest. That night, after she left, he couldn't stop thinking about her words. Lonely. Was he? He looked around the apartment, the wide windows, the perfect silence, the neat order. Maybe she was right. The next day, while she was making tea, he noticed something odd on her desk. A small sketchbook half open. He didn't mean to look. But curiosity got the better of him. Inside were notes and drawings, diagrams of what looked like a wearable device. Something with sensors, straps, and a sleek interface. At the top of one page was a name, Project Step-Free. He frowned. Step-Free. What's this? He asked as she walked back into the room. Amelia froze. Oh, that's nothing. Just an idea I'm playing with. It looks like medical tech, he said, flipping a page. Are you designing this? She quickly grabbed the notebook from his hands, hugging it to her chest. It's just a hobby. Hobby. His tone sharpened. It looks like a prototype plan. Are you working for another company? No, she said quickly. It's not like that. I have an idea to help people with injuries, like people who can't walk easily. His eyes narrowed. Like me. Her cheeks flushed. Not exactly. I mean, yes, it started because of you. But not in a bad way. I just thought. You thought you'd design tech that competes with mine? That's not what this is, she protested. It's not business, it's personal. He turned away, jaw tight. In my world, there's no difference. She stepped closer, voice trembling. You don't understand. It's not about money. It's about helping. He looked at her then, really looked. Her eyes were filled with something raw. Sincerity. Passion. But all he could feel was betrayal. You should have told me, he said quietly. I was going to. When? His voice was cold now. After you finished stealing my investors' attention? Her breath caught. You really think that low of me? He didn't answer. Silence stretched between them. Heavy, sharp, painful. Finally, she said, almost in a whisper. I thought you were different from the stories people tell in the office. And I thought you were just clumsy, he replied. Seems I was wrong too. She flinched as if he'd struck her. I'll leave, she said softly. You don't have to fire me. I'll just go. He didn't stop her. The sound of the door closing echoed through the apartment, louder than it should have. That night, the apartment felt even emptier than usual. William tried to work, but the screen blurred. Everywhere he looked, he saw reminders of her. Her mug, the notepad on the desk, the faint scent of her perfume. He told himself it didn't matter. She'd crossed a line. She was just an employee. But deep down, he knew that wasn't the truth anymore. Meanwhile, Amelia sat on her bed, staring at the little sketchbook. She felt sick. Not because of his words, but because he was right to doubt. She had hidden things. Not because she wanted to hurt him, but because she'd been scared. Scared he wouldn't understand. Scared he'd see her as competition instead of someone who cared. She opened her laptop and stared at the unfinished code of her prototype. Project Step-Free. Her voice cracked in the empty room. I just wanted to help. The next morning, William's assistant came by to drop off some files. She hesitated. Sir, Miss Green didn't clock in today. I'm aware, he said shortly. Should we process her resignation? He looked at the document on his desk, her name printed neatly at the top. He nodded once. Yes, do it. But when she left, he didn't sign the paper. He sat there staring at her name for a long, long time. Days passed. The office returned to normal. He went back to his meetings, his deadlines, his empty apartment. Yet something had shifted. The silence felt different now, heavier. At night, he found himself thinking about her laughter echoing through his home, the smell of burnt toast, the way she said empty space. And every time he'd shake it off, but the feeling always came back. One evening, he opened his laptop to prepare for a presentation. The screen blinked. A new message. From Amelia. Subject. I never meant to hurt you. He hovered over it, then opened it. Mr. Carter, I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but I wanted you to understand, Step-Free isn't competition. It's a small project to help people walk again after injuries. You were the reason I started it, seeing how hard recovery can be. I didn't tell you because I didn't want you to think I was using you. I'm sorry I broke your trust. I just hope one day you'll believe that my intentions were good. Amelia. He read the message twice, then a third time. And for the first time in days, he didn't feel angry. He felt regret. He closed his laptop, leaned back and whispered to the empty room. She wanted to help. He rubbed his face with a tired hand. Maybe he had been wrong. But pride was a heavy thing, and he wasn't ready to admit it. Not yet. Still, somewhere deep inside, a thought began to form. If he didn't do something soon, she might disappear from his life for good. And that, for reasons he didn't want to name, terrified him. 3 weeks passed. The city moved on. But William Carter didn't. His leg was healing. He could walk again, carefully, slowly, but on his own. Yet somehow walking had never felt heavier. He returned to the office, back to the noise, the pace, the power. Everyone was polite, efficient, respectful. Everything worked exactly as before. Except him. "Morning, Mr. Carter," his new assistant said brightly, placing coffee on his desk. He nodded, distracted. The smell was wrong. Too bitter. He didn't drink it. When he opened his emails, he caught himself waiting for a message that wouldn't come. He told himself it didn't matter. He'd made the right call. She'd hidden something. He couldn't afford people like that in his life. And yet, every time someone laughed outside his office, his heart jumped, for a split second, thinking it might be her. Amelia, meanwhile, worked from her tiny apartment in East London. The rent was cheap, the walls thin, and the only view was the neighbor's laundry line. Her savings were almost gone, but she kept working on step-free. Late nights, cold tea, scribbled notes on the floor. The project had grown, the design more refined, the software more stable. But without funding, it was just a dream. She reached out to a few investors, small ones. Most didn't reply. One offered to buy her idea cheap. She said no, because deep down she didn't just want to sell it. She wanted it to mean something. And part of her still wished William could see it that way too. One rainy evening she got an email. Subject: Carter Innovations Annual Charity Gala. Invitation. She stared at it for a long time. She wasn't an employee anymore. So why was she on the guest list? Then she saw the small note at the bottom. Courtesy of HR, former team members welcome. Her heart pounded. Part of her said, don't go. The other part whispered, maybe you should. She didn't know what she expected. An apology, a glance, closure maybe. But she needed to see him one last time. The night of the gala was cold and elegant. The ballroom shimmered with gold light, crystal glasses, and the low hum of expensive laughter. Amelia stood near the entrance, clutching her small purse, trying not to feel completely out of place. Then she saw him. William Carter. Tall, sharp suit, calm face, but older, somehow more tired. He was surrounded by people, smiling politely, though his eyes never quite matched the smile. Her chest tightened. She almost turned around. But he looked up and saw her. Their eyes met across the crowd. Time slowed. No one else existed for a moment. He didn't expect her to come. When he saw her standing there, wearing a simple navy dress that caught the light just enough, something inside him shifted. He made an excuse to leave the group and walked toward her. Every step felt like a decision. "Miss Green," he said finally, voice steady but quiet. She looked up. "Mr. Carter." For a few seconds neither spoke. The music filled the silence between them. "You look," he hesitated. "Well." She smiled faintly. "So do you. Walking again, I see." "Mostly," he said. "You were right. I needed help." Her eyes softened. "You look like you still do." He almost laughed, a real one. "Maybe I do." They stepped aside, away from the crowd. He nodded toward her. "You've been busy, I hear." She frowned. "You hear?" "Your project," he said. "Step-free, was it? Word travels fast in my industry." Her pulse jumped. "Oh," he continued, tone unreadable. "You presented a demo last week?" "Yes," she said. "It went okay. Small audience. But it worked." He nodded slowly. "Congratulations." "Thank you," she said quietly. "I didn't think you'd care." He looked at her, eyes sharp but softer than before. "I didn't. At first." "And now?" she asked. He hesitated. "Now I'm not sure what I feel." She gave a small sad smile. "That makes two of us." Someone called his name, another investor. He waved them off. "I read your email," he said finally. "The one you sent me." Her breath caught. "And?" He looked away, then back at her. "I believed you." For a moment her face lit up. "You did." He nodded. "But believing doesn't fix everything." "I was still angry." "I know," she said softly. "And I was scared." They stood there, two people surrounded by hundreds, speaking like the world had shrunk down to just them. Then she said, almost whispering, "I didn't build Step-Free to prove anything. I built it because I saw you struggle and I hated it. You're so strong, but that day on those stairs." She trailed off, eyes glistening. "I just wanted to make sure no one else had to feel that helpless." He stared at her, speechless. I thought if I could build something that helped people stand again, she continued, it would mean falling wasn't pointless. Something inside him cracked. He'd spent his whole life building walls, around his company, around his heart. And now with a few words she'd found a way through all of them. He stepped closer. Amelia. Her name felt different when he said it. Softer. Real. But before he could say anything else, someone called his name again. Louder this time. He glanced over, a journalist. Cameras flashing. When he looked back, Amelia was already stepping away. I should go, she said quietly. Good luck with the event. Wait. He reached out but stopped himself. She smiled sadly. It's okay. We said what mattered. Then she turned and walked into the crowd, disappearing into the shimmer of light and music. That night, after everyone left, William stood alone by the balcony. The city stretched beneath him. Endless windows, endless noise. But all he could think about was her voice, her eyes, her words. Falling wasn't pointless. Maybe she was right. Maybe falling was how people learn to stand differently. He pulled out his phone, opened her old email and reread it. Then slowly he typed a new message. I was wrong. I want to see your project. Tomorrow. WC. He hit send before he could change his mind. And for the first time in months William Carter smiled. Not the polite kind but something small and real. 'Cause maybe, just maybe, this wasn't the end. Maybe it was the start of something new. Morning came cold and gray. Amelia barely slept. She kept checking her email, not believing the message was real. I want to see your project. Tomorrow. William Carter. She read it again just to make sure she hadn't dreamed it. No, it was still there. Her hands shook a little as she packed her laptop, notes, and the small prototype device she built over months of quiet, lonely nights. If he came, she needed to be ready. If he didn't, she'd have closure. Either way, this was it. The next day, she stood in a small co-working space downtown, setting up her demo table. The room was modest. No chandeliers, no expensive suits. Just a few chairs, a projector, and the faint smell of coffee. This wasn't a grand launch. It was personal. A handful of mentors and startup friends had shown up to support her. Then, 10 minutes before the presentation began, the door opened. He walked in. William Carter, in a dark coat, no tie, hair slightly windswept. He looked out of place in the humble room, but not uncomfortable. Their eyes met. Mr. Carter, she said softly. Amelia, he replied. I got your address from your email signature. Hope that's not too forward. She shook her head. No. I'm just surprised you came. So am I, he said with a faint smile. When the presentation started, she spoke clearly, her voice steadier than she felt. Good morning, everyone. My name is Amelia Green and this is Project Step Free. She clicked a button. The screen behind her lit up. Diagrams, short clips, photos of patients recovering from injuries. It's a wearable support device that helps stabilize leg movement after fractures or surgeries. It's lightweight, adjustable, and designed for people who want to recover faster without losing mobility. William watched closely. Every word she said hit deeper than he expected. She continued. This started as a personal idea. After seeing someone I respect struggle with recovery. Her voice softened, almost trembling. It reminded me that strength isn't about walking without falling. It's about getting up even when it hurts. She paused. The room was silent. Then she smiled, small but sincere. And that's why I built this. When the applause came, it was warm, genuine. A few people came up to ask questions, but William stayed back, silent, watching. After everyone left, she turned to him. Well, she asked. You've seen it now. He nodded slowly. It's impressive. Thank you. He hesitated, then added, and beautiful work. She smiled faintly. That's high praise from you. It's honest, he said. They stood in the quiet room surrounded by empty chairs. Finally, William said, You were right. She frowned. About what? About me. He sighed. About how I see the world. I built walls because I thought they protected me. But they just kept everyone out, even people who wanted to help. Her voice was soft. You don't have to apologize. Yes, I do, he said. I accused you of something unfair. I didn't listen. And I hurt you. She looked at him, unsure what to say. He took a slow breath. I told myself I didn't care. That you were just another employee. But that was a lie. Amelia froze. What do you mean? He met her eyes, steady, vulnerable. I mean, I haven't been able to stop thinking about you since the day you carried me down those stairs. Her heart skipped a beat. He smiled a little. You were terrified. But you didn't run. You stayed. I didn't have much of a choice, she whispered. Yes, you did, he said. You always had a choice. You just chose to help. She looked down, trying to hide the tears forming in her eyes. He stepped closer, his voice lower now. I thought I needed control. But what I needed was something real. Someone real. William, she said softly. He paused, searching her face. I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted to say I was wrong. And that what you built, what you are, is something extraordinary. She let out a small laugh, half shaky, half relieved. You really practiced that speech, didn't you? He smiled. Maybe a little. Then quieter. Did it work? She looked at him, really looked, and for the first time she saw not the CEO, not the boss, but a man trying to learn how to say sorry. I don't know, she said honestly. Part of me wants to forgive you right now. The other part still remembers how much it hurt. He nodded. That's fair. I can't just pretend nothing happened, she added. I wouldn't want you to. So what do you want then? He took a slow breath. To start over. Not as your boss. Just as me. She smiled faintly. That's a strange offer coming from William Carter. He tilted his head. Maybe I'm learning. They stood in silence again, the air thick with unspoken words. Then she picked up the prototype from the table and handed it to him. Here, she said. Try it. He blinked. Now. Yes. If it's going to change lives, it should start with you. He hesitated, then slipped the device onto his leg. It was light, smooth, almost invisible. She adjusted a small dial. Okay, take a step. He did. Slowly. Carefully. And for the first time since his accident, the pain didn't shoot up his leg. It felt steady. Supported. He looked at her, stunned. It works. She smiled, proud, glowing. Of course it does. He took another step. And another. Then stopped, facing her. I should have believed in you, he said. You didn't know how, she replied gently. Maybe now I can learn, he said. Their eyes met again, the tension still there but softer now, laced with something fragile and new. She reached out and adjusted the strap near his knee. Her fingers brushed against his hand. Neither moved away. He whispered, You know, for someone I tried to fire, you turned out to be the best decision I ever made. She laughed quietly. Careful, Mr. Carter. That almost sounded like flirting. He smiled, a real one this time. Maybe it was. As the last light of afternoon streamed through the windows, they stood close, not quite together but no longer apart. It wasn't a confession yet. Not fully. But it was enough to change everything. A month later, Step-Free was no longer just an idea. It was real. Amelia's prototype caught attention online. A small tech magazine wrote an article about the young woman changing mobility recovery. Investors started calling. Hospitals sent inquiries. For the first time in her life, she wasn't just surviving, she was becoming. Still, she hadn't heard from William since that day. He'd seen the demo, tried the device, and said those words she couldn't forget. Maybe now I can learn. Then he disappeared again. Back into meetings, deadlines, and the world that always claimed him. She told herself it was fine. He'd given her the push she needed. That was enough. But sometimes when she stayed late at the office, alone with her laptop and the city lights outside, she missed his voice. The sharp confidence. The quiet sincerity beneath it. She missed him. Meanwhile, William wasn't the same man anymore. He still ran Carter Innovations, but something had changed in him. A gentler tone, a longer pause before he spoke, a rare unguarded smile that caught his team off guard. He'd started visiting rehabilitation centers, talking to doctors, learning how people recovered from injuries. And everywhere he went, he saw versions of Amelia's invention. Her idea was spreading. He realized he didn't want to compete with her. He wanted to help her. But part of him was afraid she didn't need him anymore. So, instead of sending another email, he made a plan. The evening of her first official step-free presentation arrived. A small but high-profile event at a medical tech expo. Amelia stood backstage, hands trembling slightly. Everything was ready. Slides, prototype, speech. But her heart wouldn't calm down. She looked at the audience through the curtain, full of reporters, investors, and strangers. Then she saw him, William Carter, sitting in the front row. Her breath caught. He was dressed simply, no tie, no arrogance. Just quiet focus, eyes only on her. For a second she forgot her lines. Then she smiled. When her name was called, she stepped onto the stage. Bright lights. Applause. She began her talk, calm but glowing. Step-free is more than technology. It's hope. It's about standing again, not just on your feet, but in your life. Her voice didn't shake now. She spoke with confidence, with warmth. And every time she looked down, she saw him watching, not judging, not measuring. Just proud. After the presentation, people crowded around her. Congratulations, business cards, flashes of cameras. But when the room started to clear, William waited until it was just the two of them. He walked up slowly, holding a small white box. "You forgot something," he said. She frowned. "What's this?" He handed it to her. Inside was a small engraved nameplate. Step-free, in collaboration with Carter Innovations. Her eyes widened. "William, He raised a hand. "Before you say anything, it's not a takeover. Not funding. Not control. Just support. Equal partnership." She stared at him. "You're serious?" He nodded. "I believe in what you built. And I believe in you. This time I don't want to lead. I just want to stand beside you." Her voice trembled. "You really have changed." He smiled softly. "You're the reason I had to." They stood there for a moment, quiet, full of things neither had to say out loud anymore. Then she whispered, "You know, I thought I'd never see you again." He chuckled. "I tried to stay away. Didn't work." "Good," she said. "Good?" She nodded. "Because I wasn't done falling for you yet." He froze for half a second, then laughed. That low, rare laugh she'd missed so much. "Well," he said, "that makes two of us." Outside, the evening air was soft and cool. They walked together down the marble steps of the building, the same kind of steps where it had all started. She looked at him teasingly. "Careful, Mr. Carter. Don't trip this time." He grinned. "Not planning to." Then he hesitated, and did something unexpected. He offered his hand. "But if I do, at least I know who'll catch me." She took it, her fingers warm against his. And together they walked into the night. No rush, no titles, no walls. Just two people who'd finally learned how to fall the right way. Later, as they crossed the quiet street, she glanced at him. "So what happens now?" He smiled. "Now? We built something new. Together. Business or something else?" He met her eyes, that familiar spark returning. "Both, if you'll let me." She laughed softly. "I guess we'll see." They stopped at the corner, the city lights flickering around them. For a moment everything felt still. The kind of stillness that comes right before something beautiful begins. He looked at her, a small smile curving his lips. "Maybe falling," he said quietly, "wasn't such a bad thing after all." She smiled back, squeezing his hand. "No, not if it led us here."